Welcome to the Department of Commerce Electronic Certificate of Origin System. In this video, I will be showing users how to apply for tariff rate quota certificates TRQC using the Electronic Certificate of Origin System. To get started, go ahead and log into your exporter portal. To apply for TRQC certificates, you must click on the ISFTA quota shipment request tile. It is worth noting that you must have performed quota allocation and have a Department of Commerce allocated quota in order to apply for a TRQC. There are a few prerequisites that must be fulfilled before you apply for TRQC. First, your company must be registered with the TRQC system, at which point you will be able to submit an application for quota allocation. Quota allocation applications can only be submitted at a designated time period for submission provided by the Department of Commerce during the months of December and June. This process is explained in detail in the previous video. Once you have successfully allocated quota, you may begin applying for TRQC certificates. One other point worth noting is that you must pay attention to your available quota balance, as it must be greater or equal to your total request quantity in pieces in your certificate. The system will reject a TRQC application if you do not have the sufficient amounts of quota left to apply for it. The second major prerequisite that must be fulfilled is that you must add your apparel products using the Add Product tile in the dashboard and have a Department of Commerce approved cost statements for those products. The process of adding products and getting Department of Commerce approval for cost statements is explained in detail in the cost statement video. Now, before we begin a TRQC application, if you wish to view your company's quota summary, go ahead and click on the additional/return quota tile. Once inside, proceed to click on the quota summary bubble icon. The two functions, additional and return quota, will be explained in detail in the next video. Now, within this table, you will be able to view the summary details of your company quota. The first column displays the relevant quota period, be it the first or the second half of a particular year, and the following columns showcase the initial allocated quota amount, any additional quota that was approved, any quota that was returned, the total allocated quota for your company, whose value will increase or decrease based on any additional quota that you have been provided or any quota that was returned back to the Department of Commerce, the total issued quota from the TRQC approved, and the remaining quota balance for your company. Your quota balance must be sufficient for the quantity in pieces you are putting in your TRQC. Now, going back to the dashboard, I will begin a TRQC certification process by clicking the ISFTA quota shipment request tile. Now, within these pages, there are 4 sections. The first section is where you can upload your commercial invoices. Now, this is a prerequisite before you can begin your certificate application, which can be accessed from the second section. The third section is the invoice table, which will display the invoices you have already added from the invoice upload section and the total quantity within your invoice and the amount of quantity remaining for that particular invoice. Each time a TRQC is issued using a particular invoice, the quantity in pieces in that certificate will be subtracted from the total invoice quantity. Now, let's get started with the TRQC certificate application. Now, those already familiar with TRQC system at the Department of Commerce may know that a request letter and an annexure 1 specifying the additional information must be submitted to the Department of Commerce along with other relevant documentation in order to apply for a TRQC. Now, this entire process can be done using the electronic system. The additional information sheet that was used in the manual application process looked like this. If you have items that have varying unit prices, then these rows were used to fill in the details of those products with the differing unit prices, such as this. The total value will be calculated by multiplying the number of pieces and the unit price. Once all the required rows are filled, you will have to calculate the total number of pieces, the total unit prices, and the total FOB and provide it in the bottom of the table. Now, going back to the electronic system, you will only have to add the additional details of the items with multiple unit prices. The system will calculate the total prices and maintain the total number of pieces, the total unit prices, and the total FOB values for you. You will no longer have to do this manually. And this white box area represents a single row in the additional information sheet. Now, if you have varying unit prices, you can click on the plus icon to add additional rows to add in the details of those items separately. To demonstrate this process, first I will start by uploading the commercial invoices that I'm going to be using to apply for the TRQC application. To do so, I will click on the invoice upload button. I will enter my invoice number and add the total quantity available within that invoice and click on the upload invoice button to upload a PDF of that particular invoice. I can add multiple invoices by clicking on the plus icon. Once I hit submit, these invoices are entered into the system and they can be viewed from the invoice table. Clicking on the eye icon in the action bar will open your uploaded invoice in a new tab. Now going back to the system, I will click on the certificate application button and start adding my additional details. I will select the invoice I just uploaded from the drop-down menu, provide the category under which I am requesting this certificate, and then select the relevant product. If your product does not appear in this drop-down list, please make sure that you have the product added into the system and have a Department of Commerce approved cost statement for them. If these prerequisites are not met, then those products will not appear in this drop-down list. Now I will enter the relevant CUSDEC number, provide a description of goods, specify my quantity in pieces, and the unit price in USD. Now as you can see, the system will calculate the total for you. Now I will select a fabric source and a brand type. And I will upload the CUSDEC relevant to the CUSDEC number I just entered by clicking on the Upload CUSDEC button. For the purpose of this demonstration, let's say that in my shipment request, I have the same product but for a different unit price. So I will click on the plus icon to add another additional piece of information. This would be the same as adding a second row in the additional information table if you need a comparison to the manual system that you may have been previously using. I will select the same invoice for this particular example, but you can add different invoices if that is your company's business requirement. And then I will add a category number. Now it is worth noting that the category number that you select must be the same across all the additional information provided. You cannot add multiple category numbers under the same TRQC. And for the purpose of this demonstration, I will select the same product and add in the same CUSDEC number. Once again, you can add different products and different CUSDEC numbers if that fits your company's business scenario. I will now add a description of goods, quantity in pieces, and my unit price, which will be different from the previous row that I added. I will proceed to select a fabric source and a brand type. You can keep adding your additional information by clicking on the plus icon as necessary. But for the sake of this demonstration, I will stop at 2 additional pieces of information. Now I will go to the bottom of this application where I am required to add the name of the Indian exporter. I will then add the port of loading, marks and number of shipping packages, mode of transport, the address of the Indian exporter, a common description for all the goods entered above. This will be a description of goods which will be printed on your TRQC. For an example, if you have added shirts and trousers in the additional information section in the white boxes on top of the application, the description you may add might be shirts/trousers. Make sure that the description has all the relevant information about the products that you have added. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I will add a simple product description called shirts. Then if there are any other remarks to be added, go ahead and add them here. Once completed, hit submit. Once your application is submitted, you will receive an email such as this confirming your TRQC submission. Now going back to the dashboard, I will click on the ISFTA quota shipment request tile once again. Now let us go to the final bubble, which is the certificate table. Now within the certificate table, you will be able to view all your TRQC that you have applied to. At the top of the page, you will be able to get a quick summary of the quota details of your company for the current quota period, where the total allocated, total issued, and the quota balance can be viewed. And within the certificate table, we have displayed the certificate number, the category to which the certificate was issued to, along with the quantity in pieces and the FOB value. The status of the certificate is given afterwards, which will change based on the stage of the certification process. For an example, the certificate we just submitted is in the status processing, as the Department of Commerce is still in the process of reviewing your certificate. After which we have the View column, which will open your certificate in a new tab to be displayed. And then there is the Pay column, which will be activated based on the status of your certificate. And finally, the Action column. Within the Action column, by clicking on the eye icon, you will be able to view additional details about your certificate. Based on the status of your certificate, two more buttons will appear in the Action column, which is Certificate Cancellation and Duplication. These two buttons will only appear for TRQC that are successfully issued. If you want to know how to utilize these two certificate functions, go ahead and watch the video titled Certificate of Origin, Cancellation and Duplication, as the process of cancellation and duplication are identical between certificates of origin and TRQC. I will now skip ahead in time to show you what the reviewer from the Department of Commerce may look like. If your certificate has got rejected, you will receive an email such as this stating that your TRQC has been rejected. The reason for your rejection will be specified in the certificate body, which in this case seems to be because I have uploaded an incorrect document as a custodian. If your certificate has been rejected, no impact will happen to your existing quota balance. You may proceed to go back into the Certificate of Origin system and start a new TRQC application through the Certificate Application button and apply with the corrected details. Now, if your certificate was approved by the Department of Commerce, you will receive an email such as this, requesting you to proceed to make the necessary payments, along with the certificate number that was generated for you. Now going back to the certificate table, the status of your certificate has changed, and a certificate number has been generated for you. Now if you are to click on the TRQC certificate button, it will open your TRQC in a new tab. However, it will still have a government watermark placed on it. In order to remove this watermark, you must make the necessary payments. To do so, let us go back to the certificate table and click on the Pay button. This will direct us to the payment table where all your pending certificate payments can be viewed. This page can also be accessed through the dashboard by clicking on the payment style. And now we will select TRQC we just got from the Department of Commerce approval for. If you are unsure which certificate it is, go ahead and click the eye icon, which will open up your certificate in a new tab. Now going back to the payments page, I will request a few additional copies of the TRQC by clicking on the Up button under the column Additional Copies. Now as you can see, the system will automatically calculate the price for you. Now going down, you have an option to either make a bank transfer or pay using a credit or debit card. Clicking on the credit/debit card will direct you to the payments page where you can submit your card details and make the appropriate payments. You're also given an option to perform a bank transfer and upload a copy of the bank transfer received into our electronic system. I will now skip ahead in time while I make the appropriate payments for this particular certificate. Once payments are completed, the status of your TRQC will change to Ready to Issue. And clicking on the certificate icon once more reveals that the watermark has now been removed. You may now proceed to print out this certificate in an A4 sheet and bring this certificate to the Department of Commerce in order to collect the signatures of the relevant officers from the DOC. Once the Department of Commerce places their signature on the certificate and updates the electronic system from their end, the status of your certificate will change to issued, at which point you will be able to perform additional functions to your certificate such as cancellation and duplication. And now going back to the company quota summary, you can identify the fact that the total issued quota has been increased as the certificate has been successfully issued, and your available quota balance has reduced in accordance with the quantity that was specified in your TRQC. This concludes the application process for tariff rate quota certificate. Thank you for watching.